pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. This is Monday, April 7th. Any questions, concerns, comments? Public comment will be a chance to do that. That's number 12. And also, anytime before we take a vote up here, I'll give you the opportunity to come up and ask questions if you have them. If you would do that, please. And please refrain from just shouting at us from out there, and we'll try to carry on in good decor. Could I have the roll call?
Mayor Cedar?
Here.
Councilmember Regualar?
Here.
Councilmember Kufa?
Here.
Councilmember Laporte?
Here.
Councilmember Paul?
Here.
Councilmember Volz?
Here.
Councilmember Westrick?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. I have two changes I'd like to make to the agenda with your consent. I would like to add, under number 6, presentations, whatever letter comes before A, add Amy Wintrack from the Community Foundation. She has graced us with her presence tonight, and she has some presents for us, and I'd like to let her take care of that and go about her business tonight if she needs to. I would also ask the council endorses the idea that we remove number 14, the closed session tonight. Let's scratch that and pull that for tonight. I'll need a motion to that effect for both of those.
So moved. Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We will go to consent agenda A, City Council minutes of March 17th, 2025, regular meeting, recommendation approved. B is the Golf Commission minutes of October 30th, 2024, meeting recommendation received. And C is the Cemetery Board of Trustees minutes of March 4th, 2025, meeting recommendation received.
Motion to approve A through C as presented.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are so fortunate tonight. We have a very outstanding young man with us here. That is Christian Haslam. This is our 2025 state wrestling champion representing St. Clair High School. And Christian, on behalf of the St. Clair City Council and the City of St. Clair, we are so proud that, of your accomplishment. And for that, I have a nice presentation for you. And I know you don't want to say anything, but I'm sure your dad would like to say a few words.
I would love to.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
No, I don't want to say a lot. I do want to say thank you to the council, Annette and Mayor Cedar, for having Christian here and recognizing him. You know, it's pretty special that you can be in a small town where you can go to the city council meeting and be recognized for a state championship. Not every community does stuff like this. We really appreciate you guys for allowing him to be here and to be recognized. You know, when he was in 8th grade, a lot of schools kind of wanted Christian to come wrestle in their school and said that if you want to win a state championship, you should probably come to this school because we win state championships. And St. Clair doesn't. And we didn't. We never had. It never happened in St. Clair. Heck, we've only had a wrestling team for 15 years. But Christian really wanted to wrestle at home. He really wanted to wrestle in St. Clair and have a chance to bring a state championship here. And finishing second the first 2 years was tough. And I think it was harder on him because he really wanted to bring it home for St. Clair and to get it done for the community. And this year, when it was done, I think it was almost a sigh of relief to the family that he was able to complete his goal for St. Clair and for this town and for this wrestling team and community. So thank you for recognizing him, and thank you for letting us be a part of this. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's really nice and very special we got this young man sitting here because I got a chance to talk to him before the meeting, and I can tell you he's very humble. Because he was standing there with his dad, and I said to the Christian, "Would you like to get up and talk, or do you want your dad to?" My dad. Well, you did a good job, didn't you? All right, good. That's great stuff. Okay, I guess we're going to presentations, and the letter before A is Amy Wintrack. You're up.
Good evening. I'm Amy Wintrack. I'm here tonight representing the St. Clair Community Foundation, and I do come bearing some gifts that we're excited to grant. I have a check here for $45,000. We're proud to be able to help St. Clair and support the police's newer Citizens Academy. The YAPS program, which I know has been going on for many years. My own children went through that program. The ongoing beautification, I know we all appreciate those flowers in the summer, stunning. We're happy to help with that. And especially the summer events, which I know a lot of work has been done by this council and others with the downtown excitement that we have in our city, and we're really excited to help continue all of that. So on behalf of the St. Clair Community Foundation, we'll hand it over to Quentin.
Thank you, Amy. Now, since Amy gave us money, and since Christian was the state champ, and the next thing on the agenda is the audit presentation, as exciting as that is, I'm going to give you a chance right now if you want to escape. This is your moment.
Good call. Good call.
Congratulations, Christian. Thank you.
Nice job.
Amy, thank you. All right. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Smith.
Hey, what do you like to do here? No one likes the audit, I understand that. And even worse, you put me behind someone giving a presentation like that. So it's just the way it goes, I understand. Hopefully, last year I had issues with this, but let's find out. My name's Jordan Smith. I'm a principal with Maynard Costerison, here to present the financial statements for the year ended as of 9/30/2024, September 30, 2024, and the 12 months that then ended. So if you have any questions, please just interrupt me. I'm happy to answer those questions anytime you have them throughout the presentation. Before I go any further, I really need to thank Quentin, Annette, Lynette, Jessica, and the rest of the city staff. We really worked with those four more than anyone, but thank you, thank you, thank you. You're a joy to work with. It's very fun to come, and you give us what we need. So I really, really appreciate it. I feel like every year I've been here has increased better and better and better, at least from the audit standpoint, and this year's no exception. Just getting the stuff we need, timely, all that stuff has improved every single year, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good. Just to key in on some highlights. Oops, that went too far. There we go. Independent Auditor's Report. I don't have any wording up there, but this is page 1 through 3 of your bound report, your very first bound report, the thicker one. This is the point of an audit. This is the idea of an audit. Purpose. For us to express an opinion on your financial statements. Is the information fairly presented? Our job is not to detect fraud. Our job is not to give an opinion on internal controls. You had a single audit this year, which is a federal compliance audit, because the city expended more than $750,000 in federal funding. There was a compliance audit. I'll talk about that a little bit more. That does include some opinions on internal controls and stuff like that. We issued an unmodified opinion, which is the best possible opinion you can get. A clean opinion, unmodified, so like I said, best possible. Management's responsibility, which is all in that report that I'm talking about, but management's responsibility is for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with GAAP. GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. Our job as auditors is, our objective is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and issue an auditor's report. So that's our job. Let's talk about some numbers. Most of what I'm bringing to you, at least start with, is the governmental funds, which are on page 15 and 17 of your reports. That's page 16 and 18 are reconciliations between the modified accrual and then the full accrual, the government-wide, including everything. But I'm going to focus on the general fund. The general fund is modified accrual basis, so that does not include your long-term. So does not include capital assets, does not include long-term debt, things like that. To start with, a snapshot, the balance sheet is a snapshot as of September 30, 2024. Assets, liabilities, you have deferred inflows of resources and fund balance. But your total fund balance in the general fund was $8,789,490 at September 30, 2024. That can be broken down into 5 categories, which you can see there are 5 possible categories. The fourth column there, the committed and unassigned. It should say committed, assigned, and unassigned, but either way. So committed was 0, unassigned was about assigned was about 1.4 million, and that unassigned fund balance, which means there has been no determination of where to be used, it can be used for whatever the city council wants, was 6,976,585. Talk about this every year. One of the ways we look at that in the far fifth-hand column, we take that number and we look at your annual expenditures in the general fund. What was your outflow of resources out of the general fund during the year? So during the 12 months ended 9/30/2024, it was $6,098,016. So that unassigned fund balance of 6.9 million divided by the 6.1 million, you get 114%. That 114% equals about 13.7 months of operations. One of the ways I like to look at it, as of 9/30, so I understand it's about 6 months ago, but as of 9/30, if you had not taken in another dime, you could operate at the same exact level for about 13 months, so more than one full fiscal year. I want to tell you that's healthy. It's very, very good, but that's very much dependent on your future plans. What do you have coming up? What is your capital improvement plans coming up? I know you don't. You have a nice, beautiful building, but let's just say you needed a new building. Well, that could take a lot of resources, and you wouldn't want to go into debt as much as possible. So it all depends. Yes, that looks very healthy. GFOA recommends 2 months minimum. So understand that's a very minimum. 2 months, or about 17%, 2 divided by 12, 17%. But again, you're at 114%. That's actually down from 124% the prior year. But it all is dependent on what your future plans are, whether you want to consider that healthy or not. All right, let's talk about your revenues, expenditures, and other financing sources uses. So in the general fund, again, that's your main operating fund. Dollars aren't restricted too much there. Total revenues were a little over $7 million. That's an increase of about 4% year over year. Tax revenue increased because property tax values went up, so that increased. Intergovernmental, you had ARPA recognition of about $555,000, and state funding, your state share revenue and other funding increased about 4.5%. Miscellaneous other, also, you had a bunch of insurance recovery during the year because of the hailstorm damage, so you'll see the expense on the other side here in a second. But because of that hailstorm in the summer of 2023, that insurance actually didn't come until 2024, fiscal year 24-25. So expenditures, on the other hand, were about $3.9 million. That was an increase of about 21% year over year. So hailstorm repairs were over $200,000. That's part of the increase. Additional bike path expenditures was general fund paid for, and then various wage and benefit increases just as things have gone up. So that accumulates most of the increase in expenditures. The other finance sources and uses, net $2.1 million. That really should be a negative, so I apologize. That's largely because there's a transfer out to the local streets for road work. Just road work on local streets, transferred over $1 million, about $850,000 over the year before for needed road work. So the general fund covered that. All told, you added still, even with that, you added $925,000 to your bottom line, or about 12%. So that's a very, very positive outlook year over year.
Jordan,
Sir?
does that 925 inclusive of the 500 ARPA?
Yes, that includes the 500,000 ARPA,
So
yes.
if we hadn't got the ARPA, it'd have been 4.
Correct. This is, I think it's called a bar graph. Just a visual perspective. Revenues, blue. Red is expenditures. Green's that fund balance. So obviously you want your revenues to exceed your expenditures, and it has in 4 of the past 5 years. In 2020, your expenditures exceeded your revenues by less than 1%. So from my standpoint, that's basically equal, flat in 2020. But the last 4 years, your revenues have exceeded expenditures, as I kind of talked about between 23 and 24 a second ago. Just a visual representation of that. I mentioned a few minutes ago, you're at 114% this year. You're at 124% last year. Your unassigned fund balance, about $6.9 million, what's available, over your expenditures of about $6.1 million. You can see I mentioned 17%, or 2/12, what the GFOA recommends. That's the red dotted line at the bottom. That's the recommendation, minimum recommendation, don't forget that, as opposed to where you're at. And you can see it's increased over the past 5 years. Well, this year was down a little bit, but for the most part, compared to 5 years ago, it's up. Here is...
Wait a second.
Yeah, go for it.
Keep staring on this little dotty thing you got going. Where it's a little above 60% there on the far left.
Yes.
Is that have anything to do with the fact that there was a time, and that might be it, where we calculated the fund balance percentage differently?
I understand. I know what you're talking about. No, that should not be, because at that time we were including the committed and assigned as well. So that's all unrestricted. There's no outside source restricting that dollars. It's stuff City Council in some way, whether through their budget or something, has approved to assign or commit those dollars. So no, this is all on the same basis here.
Okay.
A different representation of where the money goes. So the big blue is your tax revenue. That's not where your money goes. I apologize. How the city receives money, your revenues and other financing sources. So your tax revenue is the blue there. Change about 1%. Not a big change there. As a percentage. The red is your state income. I mentioned the state revenue increase because ARPA was all federal dollars. I said state, sorry, intergovernmental, which is local dollars, if any local governments, county gave you money, state dollars or federal dollars. ARPA is federal here. And state funding increased. So you can see that increased about 8% year over year as a percentage of where money came from. Charged services, 1%, pretty much equal. And then your other is, the purple is your other and other financing sources. So just who reimbursed the general fund or gave the general fund money from other funds really reimbursed for things the general fund originally paid for. That includes the insurance recovery from the hail, as I mentioned earlier. Here's expenditures, general fund expenditures and other financing uses. So most of it is the general government. That'd be your treasurer's office, your, not most of it, but the highest percentage, 35% this year, partly because of the elections and everything. You had the preliminary elections in May and August and stuff. Plus the hailstorm damages came through there. The red is your second largest in public safety. So overtime hours increase year over year. And then transfer out, your other financing uses. Your transfer outs, as I mentioned, was fairly large, especially the local streets during the year. Other financing uses is basically what the general fund supplements the other funds, where they cover for other fund shortages there.
Hey, Jordan.
Sir.
So, does Public Works include our enterprise funds, our sewer and water?
It does not. This is only general fund. So Public Works here is typically, I would say street dollars, but a lot of the streets are out of your major and local streets. So it would be the other items that your Public Works uses.
So no enterprise funds, so just your general fund expenses?
Correct.
And then would capital assets, things like equipment pool and those capital assets be captured in Public Works?
They could be. In this case, they're actually capturing capital outlay.
Okay.
Capital outlay is the orange. 2% last year, went down a little bit this year. But again, this is only what was paid for out of the general fund. So if items are paid for out of major local streets or something, those are restricted dollars that are being used for the major local streets. So those are not captured here.
Thank you for that.
Jordan, looking at this, can you recall or what happened with that our public safety hunk of the pie went down 4%? What did we do?
Well, largely, it's a percentage, right? So that's a breakdown of the percentage. So overall, your overtime hours in public safety actually increased about 20% year over year. Your public safety overtime hours increased. But because of the amount of costs that were required for transfer outs, because $850,000 extra was paid to local streets for those for streets out of the general fund transferred. You also had general government, which increased about over 200,000 year over year, and you can see the percentages there, about 8%. Because of that, the public safety decreased as a percentage. So really, this is just a breakdown of where you expended your dollars during the year, more than like what actually occurred.
Thank you.
Now, kind of as Quentin had mentioned a minute ago, we're going to talk about sewer and water funds and the harbor fund. This is a proprietary fund. So these are more on a kind of like a for-profit or a nonprofit full accrual basis. So this includes your long-term debt. This includes net pension liability, net OPEB liability, all in accordance with GASB 34. I'm going to start with sewer. So just a visual perspective, all of that combined is your total net position. Equity, general fund is called fund balance because it's full accrual here, we call it net position. The blue bar is the large bar there. That is the investment in your infrastructure. So think of your sewer pipes, think of your sewer plant or different things, anything having to do with sewer, equipment, vehicles, stuff like that. That is your investment. At 9/30/2024, that is about a little over $7.8 million. And you can see how that's kind of flowed. It's fairly even, but it's kind of flowed over there. Net of any related debt. So any debt is backed out there too. You got to come up with a number somehow. So you take in the historical costs, you take down depreciation, kind of what it's depreciated or been its useful life over a period of time, get rid of any debt, and that's what you're left with, about $7.8 million in a financial representation. The red at the bottom, or top, I'm sorry, right at the top is the restricted net position. So this is an outside source. Due to your 2012 state revolving fund debt in the sewer fund, they also require you to set aside $390,000 that's restricted for asset replacement. So you can use that to replace the asset. Really, they want you to wait till that debt's paid off, but you can replace it, use it to replace those capital assets at some point. They force you to restrict that. And the green, unfortunately, you do not want the green below the bar. I'll show you in the harbor fund in a minute where you really want that. But that, because the other items are so high, that unrestricted net position is below the zero. So it's showing at 9/30/24 negative about 200,000, just below 200,000 there. That's actually an improvement over the past few years, and you can actually see that it got worse from 2020 to 2021, worse to 2022, and then it's slowly over the last 3 years been improving year over year, which is a positive situation. You want that to increase. Again, part of that is because you have put so much into your infrastructure. So you see the big blue there, that investment in capital assets, that's your infrastructure. So that's there. Another representation here. So I was mentioning that green bar, going back here, where that green bar is. If you were to ask me, I did a calculation, I can explain that if you want me to, but where that red bar is, that's where we'd like your green bar to be above zero. That would be our recommendation for where that would be. The blue bar is where you're at, down below. I know it's green on the last slide, but blue here. And then red would be where we believe you should be annually. So just showing where that is there. Talking water fund, same kind of thing. There's no restricted funds here, but your investment in capital assets, your water lines, your water treatment plant, all that, that's the blue bar, your infrastructure to help the residents get water. And blue is below the line there. That's your unrestricted net position, which is negative. Again, kind of like sewer. I don't want to say it's mirroring sewer because it's really not, but it wasn't so good in 2020, went down in 21, 22, and you can see it's improved again 23, 24. And part of why the blue bar is so much higher this year is you are investing in a wastewater treatment plant. You've gotten bonds and stuff for that, but you're investing in that, so it's going up as other assets are. Here, same like the other sewer again. The blue is where you're actually at, and the red is where our minimum recommendation would be. So you can just see that difference there between currently a negative unrestricted net position to a positive is what we believe it should be, your minimum recommended. Finally, your other major proprietary fund is the harbor fund. So as I mentioned, this is kind of what you'd like to see. Harbor fund's very, very healthy at year end. Even though revenue was down about 3%, it's still very, very healthy. So the infrastructure that you have for the harbor fund is the blue, and then the green is your net position used to support that. And here you can see the blue is where you are, and the red would be our recommendation. So you're way above the recommendation in the harbor fund, which is a very positive situation there. Before I talk about the compliance, single audit, the compliance audit, real quick, there's 4 upcoming GASBs. The top 2 are applicable for 9/30/2025, and the bottom 2 for 9/30/2027. I think I talked a little bit to Lynette this year about all that, but or the top 2, especially GASB 101. But comp state absences, it's a reporting disclosure. All these are reporting, so it should not affect the day-to-day operations of the city, but it will affect the financial reporting next year and how those things have to get reported in the financial statements. All right, independent auditors report. Again, it's not in here. but I just want to bring it to your attention. This is in the small bound copy that should be in front of you. It's called a single audit or federal compliance audit. Supplementary information. So, independent audit report on compliance for each major federal program and on internal controls over compliance requirements for the uniform guidance. We did not note any non-compliance as a part of our audit procedures. So, no news, good news there. That's on the federal. This one right there, independent audit report, internal control over financial reporting and compliance and other matters based on audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. You might hear it referred to as yellow book because the book has a big, nice yellow cover that we have to follow. Either way, so this is really about on your internal controls and a little bit more of the standard auditing, even though it falls under the compliance as well. We had 3 findings in the prior year and 3 findings in this year, so I'll talk about those here in a second. This is your federal, your CFA, Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards, CFA. You expended a little over $2.3 million during the year, which is up from prior year when you spent about $929,000. The top amount there, $554,000, is all the ARPA dollars that you always hear and stuff. And then the bottom part is the wastewater treatment loan and grants that you receive. That's all federal dollars coming through for that. So as part of this, we have to do here what's called a schedule of findings and question costs. Really, you want everything in the right. Unfortunately, there's a material weakness in 2 non-compliance findings. So one of the findings was material journal entries proposed by auditors. Our adjustments for those, what we had to propose there was net pension liability adjustments and net OPEB liability adjustments. Some of it was timing on the OPEB part. We do this for 80-90% of our clients. We propose these. And in order for us to give a clean opinion, we kind of have to adjust those there. So there's that one. Unfavorable budget variances in the general fund. The city overexpended their final amended budget. So that there. We've had this one the last couple of years. This is a repeat as well. Again, majority of my clients have this one. Not a huge deal here. However, state law says you are supposed to amend the budget prior to spending $1. So when it goes over, we have to report this to the state. And then the final one was budgeting for a fund balance deficit. So the local street fund, the city accidentally, when the budget was approved, budgeted for a deficit, which the state says you can't have a deficit in funds or you're not supposed to have a deficit in funds. You did not have a deficit in funds. Everything in the final budget looked good. Everything in actual is still positive. But originally in that original budget, you planned on, per the numbers approved, to have a deficit. And so we just have to report that here. So, any questions?
Okay, walk me back to sewer and water, Jordan.
Okay.
Am I thinking right when I think that both the sewer and the water funds are, you said they are like a 196 deficit. Is
Yep.
that actual, I asked this, that actual, the water fund, is that short of money?
So essentially, there's so much money has been put into infrastructure and stuff, or is restricted. So there's $390,000 that's restricted. So you have that money, but it is restricted, so you can't claim it as like unrestricted dollars, right? It's restricted, opposite of unrestricted. It would be in pages 19 and 20 of your actual financial statements, the big, thicker bound copy there. So yes, you have just 196,000 unrestricted deficit. So really what that means is your assets, if you excluded all your infrastructure, or the blue line there, and you excluded what's restricted, your assets could not pay for your liabilities. You'd have to borrow fund from the general fund or something to pay for those liabilities. That is what it means. As you can see, though, over the past 3 years, it is slowly getting better. And if my understanding, talking with Quentin and Annette and others, the city's on a plan to have that continue to improve and get better year over year.
Jordan, can I ask, is long-term pension liabilities included in that green line?
Yes.
Okay, so if we have, as we have more retirees coming onto the system and we're paying and they're living longer, so we're paying out that debt and that's captured in that green line. So as long as we have retirees that are on those defined benefit plans, we'll always see that? Or some essentially,
since 2000, I'm going to say 2010, I think, 14, somewhere right in there, early, right there, 10, 11, 12, 13. Prior to those dates, you did not have to show your net pension liability or net OPEB liability, any of that. So that would have been an increased number. So your net pension liability in the sewer fund here, just allocated just for the sewer fund, your net pension liability was $1.5 million. So that's not some liability that's going to go out tomorrow or anything. But again, if you were to liquidate, ignoring your investments and what's restricted, if you were to liquidate, your assets could not cover those liabilities. Net OPEB liability, so other post-employments, not pension, but other health care and other post-employment benefits, is about $150,000. So those two combined are about $1.65 million, which is included in that green bar, as Quentin was alluding to there. And those are over time, you pay those, you get billed for pension by MERS, and the OPEB, it all depends on what you include into the trust, which is fairly healthy, if I'm not mistaken, at that amount. So, MERS bills you, and over time, that should go. And some of that's the service costs and what it is. And if you close the plan, I don't remember if yours is or not, I apologize, I could look, but if you were to close the plan, it'll slowly increase over time until it hits a cap, and then it'll kind of fall off a cliff. And MERS gives you a breakdown graph of what that would look like.
Is this true too? So let's just look 5 years out from now.
Yep.
And in 5 years, we have no more defined benefit on the sewer fund. And so if we're not on a defined benefit, and over those 5 years, more people come off of the defined benefit, and we invest in our capital assets, meaning that the value of the capital asset goes up, and we are not spending as much into our pension program, that we should also improve on that as well.
It should. The catch with the pension aspect is it's not when people quit working, it's when they pass away, unfortunately.
Yeah, when I said come off the pension plan, I was saying it politely.
I just want to make sure. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But because you're required to pay until they pass away,
right,
or their spouse, depending on the plan, how it's designed and everything. So I don't want to sound bad, but I have a client who closed like a year ago, and they have like a 22-year-old on there. So they're expecting to pay for him for how long? Things can happen, unfortunately, in life that could change that. But right now, that's their plan. They're going to pay him 60, 70 years. They're going to be paying on that. So it all depends on when those things happen.
Okay. I'm thinking back of that. It was a few years ago that big switch happened on the union side of the house in the contracts, moving from a defined benefit to a defined contribution. And so it's going to take years, I believe, for it to really realize we're not adding to that defined pension anymore. But until we realize it and folks come off it.
Yes. Yeah. The other aspect, which neither one of us mentioned, is it very much is a moving target. If markets do better, your liability is going to go down because you've got more in your trust. If markets don't do as well, you haven't earned as much in investments. So if people live longer, that's going to increase your liability. There's other factors in there that could change things, but probably the biggest ones is lifespan, and then also, three of them, if you ask me. Lifespan, how much the city contributes towards the trust to bring down the net liability, and then what your investments do. And that's all, the investments are all controlled by MERS and stuff.
Can we ever get to 100% funding on the pension liability?
Yes, but it's a moving target.
So you could be 100% 1 year and then the next year?
I have a client, I'm not joking, I have a client, I'm going to say 2007 or whatever, and I understand that was 18 years ago or whatever that was, but they were 150% funded, and by 2010, they were like 65% funded. Wow. Partly, they didn't think they need to fund it anymore, so they'd taken those costs away, but then the markets dropped out of the floor, right? You gave another couple years, and they were back over 100% again, basically because of the markets. So there can be wild swings on that.
Anyone else? Question from the public on that?
You're going to have a motion, and then you're going to have a second for discussion. So.
We need a motion to accept this presentation, or do we just?
Motion.
Clerk says no. No? Okay. All right, Jordan, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good. We're in a good position.
Okey-dokey. All right, thank you, Jordan Smith.
Thank you, Jordan.
All right, number 7 is ordinance and resolution A, resolution 25-3, fiscal year 25 fee and charges amendment. Mr. Bishop.
Okay. What you have before you in a resolution is a revised list of fees coming out of the building department. What was examined in these last couple of months is that with the electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, our fees weren't necessarily aligned with the state averages. And so what we did was we looked at some of the areas that we can bring up to speed and make sure that we're in more alignment with the state rates. So for example, on electrical application fee, we were currently setting it at $60 for the application fee. To come in line with the state would be $75. And as you move down, anything that you see in the right-hand column, if you see a number there, that's an adjustment. So we didn't have anything for energy retrofitting and temperature control per device. Things like specialty safety inspections, moving that up from where we were to 75. These are all state numbers again for alignment. And that's for additional inspections and final inspections as well. Underground inspections, we had nothing for, but the state average is around $75, so that has been an add-on. On the back page, you'll see electrical, and now we're getting into like solar panels. That's becoming more and more relevant. We had nothing in the past, and now to inspect a solar system, an inverter generating capacity is less than 500 kilowatt. Each panel is $2, and then decrease after that. Electrical vehicle charging stations, each station to inspect that would be a $5. We had nothing before, and that is going to become more and more relevant. We mimicked the same type of behavior that we just came from the electrical permitting with mechanical. So again, on the first page, application fee being increased along with state averages, and then on the back again for inspections, additionals, finals, and safety, special safety inspections, all increases. Essentially the same thing out of the plumbing, application, special safety, additional re-inspections, and final inspection increases, $60 to $75. And if you turn to the very back page, building, roofing fees, moving from $60 to $75 for alignment. So really what it boils down to, minus the miscellaneous electrical fees, it's really about application fees and inspection fees. That's what that's boiling down to. It's moving from 60 to 75. Okay. With my recommendation of moving the fee and charges, I'd like to make the amendment to the fee schedule to reflect those that you have in front of you for electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and building.
Need a motion to do so.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make that motion. Support.
All right, the motion is made, support. Question. Call the roll, please.
Rattler,
Yes.
Koopa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Bowles,
Yes.
Westrick,
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, B is resolution 25-4, certification of additional streets to Act 51 local street system.
So received an email from Kelly Bolt at MDOT, and they had hired some folks. I'm not sure if they were doing it through Google Earth or if they were driving around town or whatnot, but they had taken some snapshots of some of our roads and saying, hey, by the way, on your Public Act 51 map, you call out a stub of a road, but when you zero in on it, it's actually a dead end with rocks with a tree behind it. There's obviously no road there, and it's counting as part of a stub there. So you're going to see really B and C are talking about the addition of a street that they didn't find, and we found, and we want to get credit for that. And then the next one is to delete a street. Okay, and if you're wondering where it's at, the first one, let's talk about the additional street. This is the additional street that it's a portion of Stratford north of Hawthorne. It's in Palmer Village subdivision. And we're asking that stub to be included into the Public Act 51 map. Because if you look at the map, it just runs, it's perpendicular, right? Road and then cross. It doesn't show the stub, and that's what we want to get credit for. Because as you know, each mile, each foot of road counts towards the city and our local funding. So we want to gain as much road as we can in this situation. But with that, so that would be the first resolution actually to accept the additional street on the Public Act 51 map. And then, should we take that vote first before I move on to the deletions? They are separate items. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I think that's up to you. I think the vote should be separate, obviously, but if you want to make the presentation, that's fine.
Okay, I will do that. I appreciate that recommendation. And so the second one is, the resolution is going to be the deletion of a street. Now, a portion of the street. So what's happening is a portion of Meldrum Circle, north of Hawthorne Road. So you're going to see that what should be a stub, and on our map it shows a stub off that road, but if you drove by it, you'd see that there's about 7 or 8 boulder rocks that kind of cover the road, and then what looks like a maple tree directly behind that. And so it's hard to argue like that's a street or we're going to cut a street in. I guess you could remove the rocks, remove the tree, and say that we got that stub there, but it's obviously not. And the right thing to do is eliminate that stub and call it for what it is and have our maps readjusted. Okay? So gaining a little, losing a little. And that's the essence of the two resolutions that are in front of you. But I do agree with Attorney Downey that the resolutions need to be handled separately, but that is the full report for items B and C.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution of certification of additional streets to Act 51 local street system.
Ordered.
All right, questions? Call the roll, please.
Hoover,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Volk,
Yes.
Westrick,
Yes.
Gottler,
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes,
Resolution adopted.
thank you. Need a
Make-
motion to delete.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah, I'll make another motion to delete the streets listed for the Act 51 local street system.
Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Volk,
Yes.
Westrick,
Yes.
Gottler,
Yes.
Hoover,
Yes.
Cedar.
Yes,
Resolution adopted.
thank you. All right, we will go to number 8.
I'll give a quick report, just a couple things. One, I want to welcome Miss Rebecca Blanchard. She has been newly hired as an office clerk here for the city, and she's working with the building department. Longtime employee, Jim Burlingame. She's going to be retiring, and so proud of her effort. She's really one of a kind. Short little story about that. Come to find out that she used to play cards and cut it up at Forester Park with my wife's grandparents. And so that's great. I love stuff like I absolutely love stories like that. And so we share those things, and she'll ask how Gigi's doing and things like that. So that's she's pretty special. We will really miss her talent, and she's as we all know, Dee wouldn't be who he was without Jen Burlingame. Okay, so. But we thought, in fairness, to get the right amount of training and to make sure that this position has not left any gaps and to make it as seamless transition as possible, we reached out. We had interviews. We interviewed 4 great candidates. The one that stood out that we chose is Rebecca Blanchard. We welcome her to the team. She's training. She was here today. She'll be training with Jen, learning her role, learning the schedule, and also helping out on the office clerk side of the house. So on Fridays, we're actually going to have the building department open now for partial of the day, which should actually help contractors out a little bit. Those are trying to pull permits on a Friday. We're actually going to have somebody there to receive them, and so that's going to be an additional service that we're adding to the city with the hire of Rebecca. I think it's a good thing. So if you do see her or come in the office, please stop and say hello. Also want to welcome, it's the St. Clair Police Department, Officer Spencer. He's going to be joining us. Clerk Sturdy had a wonderful swearing-in ceremony. His family and friends were there to welcome him on the staff. You'd ask, well, why is this happening in the transition? I'm sorry if I'm taking your thunder here, Chief. Sorry. I'm sorry, but it's important that we find the points of transition between when people are coming and going, and we don't wait till the last second and assume anybody to any role is just going to know how to do the job. And so we have an opportunity for the St. Clair County Drug Task Force to assign one of our officers. We have not had this opportunity in the past. It's been decades since we've had anybody representation there for the city of St. Clair. We had this opportunity to do that. That will leave us one person short of the force. And so that's going to occur in May. And so bringing somebody on into that time period to be trained, to go through field training with those field training officers, it's an important step. I fully trust Chief Raker and his staff to fully prepare this young man to join the force and to represent St. Clair well. The only last update that I have is next week, if you try to get a hold of me, just ping me. I'm going to be very, very limited I'm going to be in Charleston, South Carolina with the family, and we're going to be there Monday through Friday. And so I'm going to have very limited access to any of the email. Carry the cell phone, obviously, if there's an emergency. But if you need me, you know how to get a hold of me. But just to let you know, if I'm not as quick as I am responding, that's because my toes are in the sand. Okay? That's all I have this evening.
Anything from Mr. Bishop?
I have a question for you. Could you give us a quick update on Cox Road, just so we can have a little bit of idea of what kind of a timeline we're looking at for that? And then also I had questions about who decides on signage, crosswalks, how it all gets painted, all that sort of thing, if that's something that we would be involved in the process of or not.
I'll start with the timeline. It's a bit behind schedule. MDOT came back and asked for some more technical information that need to be provided by AEW, as they're the contractor of note for that. And Ryan Kern came in, and I've seen a slur of emails shooting back and forth. The bid was supposed to be out in February, construction in April. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen.
Yep.
And so as soon as we can get into it, the goal is this. They were supposed to be wrapped up by June. But the goal is you need to have, before those kids show up and the buses start rolling, that sidewalk needs to be done. It's not me being very tactful in how I say it, but that's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. We can't have construction on Cox Road when there's buses and carpools and things like that. That can't happen. And so we're in a full court press right now with MDOT and AEW to make sure those things are turned in and to MDOT's satisfaction. The other piece of it is signage and crosswalks. That is all part of the MDOT contract, and those are all laid out, contractors and subcontractors for painting and crosswalks. So what I can do is that I can have Ryan pull the spec pages from that particular section, and I can give you a better idea of what's actually planned for that.
I would like that.
Okay.
Moving forward, once MDOT is out of the picture, and it's just our street, I guess, or the township and our street, right? Mm-hmm. Would we have the right then to, with Chief Raker, do some of those traffic concerns moving forward? Is that all up to us, or is that something we have to get through MDOT?
Are you talking about actual
a year
signs,
from now, 2 years from now, we
painting?
need something more? We need blinkers now. We need some. Is that something that would have to go? Can we do that on our own? I guess is my question.
Chief, when it comes to that road being a county road, county maintained road, we don't have to go through any of their jurisdictions, do we, to do that, or?
A traffic study would have to be done to change any traffic control
Okay.
first. Crosswalks, I don't think so.
Signage, including like a blinking pedestrian sign, would need a traffic study.
Oh, like an activated crosswalk, so, students waiting there to cross.
I mean, I just don't think we know what it's going to be like on that sidewalk in that area yet. We will in a year.
Right.
What do we need to know so that we can make adjustments as we go? This has to be an iterative process, right? Not just it's set in stone. We're always going to have the crosswalk here. Kids are not going.
Phase 3.
Right.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking about.
I got you. Yep. Okay. We can find those things out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Mr. Bishop?
I do have one other question. It
go
could
ahead.
possibly be in the council rep portion, but I think I'll just ask it here.
Mm-hmm.
My question is about annexing property.
Mm-hmm.
I know the city probably doesn't do this very often, but I wondered what the process was like and what needed to happen to go through annexing property. And my thoughts were about approaching East China schools and annexing the secondary school property that is currently in the township. A portion of the parking lot is in the city of St. Clair, but the majority of the building is in fact in the township. And I would just like to see it operate within the city. It's our kids it's our city kids for the most part. I mean, I recognize there's township kids as well, but I like the idea of our officers being the first on call there. And I realize most of the time they would be in the first, but I also think in this age of having school resource officers, there could be some added benefit there, maybe through grant funding for those kind of positions that would be mutually beneficial to both the school and the city police department. We've also talked about, Quentin and I have talked about the road frontage. I'm interested in what the benefits are and also what would be mitigating reasons for us not to pursue this, but I would like to kind of understand that process a little bit.
We can go down that road. I can do some research. I'm familiar from an economic development standpoint when they do like Public Act 425s. That's usually about infrastructure though, and we did that with the St. Clair Industrial Park.
Mm-hmm.
That was an annexation, and that was a 425 plan. I'm not personally tuned up on what it takes when there's existing infrastructure, and it's really just kind of carving out more into the, but we can find that out. It's going to take a little bit of homework, though.
Sure.
To figure out the ins and outs of that. And I definitely, I think, probably prudent to have St. Clair Township, get at the table when we talk about those.
Thanks.
What that looks like.
We've done some annexation discussions before, and I can pass that along to the council so everyone's got the latest on it.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Downey, have anything?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
City departments.
Just a reminder to council to RSVP if you can make it to the State of St. Clair County address, which is May 2nd, 11:15 to 1:15. So just let me know if you can go.
Thank you. Any authorities, boards, commissions? Great. We have no unfinished business. We have new business. We're lucky again tonight again. Karen Straffen is here, and she's here to give us a little presentation about our war hero, Dwayne T. Williams.
Good evening, and thank you for letting me come. Last year, as you know, we honored Dwayne Williams, who is this county's only Medal of Honor recipient and only one of 10 from Vietnam. That is very, very special, let me tell you. And St. Clair High School has 3 heroes that graduated from that school. Dwayne Williams, which gave his life and received the Medal of Honor in Vietnam. Andrew Porter, he was a chief warrant officer, helicopter pilot, who lost his life when his helicopter was shot down in the 30-day Panama War with Noriega. And then you have Jeffrey Standfast, who was a Marine, and he was killed in Afghanistan. That is more than any school has, and I commend you. But with Dwayne Williams, no one knew who he was, and we had the ceremony honoring him. But then I also wanted to add to the memorial in the park. They have the boots and the helmet. So I'm having 2 bronze plaques made, which you all received copies of. The one bronze one is just to show you what it would look like, and the other 2, one on Dwayne's early life would go to the left of the boots, and his later life and his Marine would go on the right of the monument. And I'm asking for permission to have them, they're being made right now, to have them put in the ground there. We would like to dedicate them on Memorial Day, but we may not, because I talked to Mr. Dupuy, and he is planning on honoring Andrew Porter that day, and I don't want to conflict with another hero that's being honored. But if we don't do that, we might do it on Dwayne's birthday in September or some other time, but I do need permission to put them on. Yes.
Ms. Karen, you have these plaques covered, all the expenses to do this? Do you need
Yes.
money
No, I've paid for them
personally, or do you have it covered by somebody?
personally.
I'd like to make a motion that we gladly install these plaques, but also take on the charges that are associated with
It's-
getting them into the correct placement at your choosing in the location.
I will tell you, this is my true honor, making Dwayne known. And 2 weeks ago, we were at the grand opening of the Congressional Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington, Texas, and Dwayne's sister, Diane, and her husband came with us. And I will tell you, the 32 living recipients that were there, they enfolded Diane into their fold. And Gary Sinise, when Diane gave them one of the challenge coins, he sat there and talked to her for 2 to 3 minutes, and he broke down and cried when he heard Dwayne's story. He is truly a hero.
Mr. Olson, well, second that motion.
All right, motion made, supported, questions? Call the roll, please.
Hall,
Yes.
Bowles,
Yes.
Westrick,
Yes.
Gatler,
Yes.
Kufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Cedar,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I
Keep
would
up the good work.
also like to, one short but I had challenge coins made, which is standard in the military, for Dwayne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, can I get you, you're not gonna be.
Oh, I think I have one already.
I'm short one. If I get it to her, you're not gonna be here, so.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, and on the back is the USNS Dwayne T. Williams, Navy ship that was named after him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
We will go to B, approve American fireworks option year. Is that Annette or is that?
Sure. Last year, the contract was approved with the option year for 2025, so I just thought it was prudent to bring it before council again to actually state you're going to approve the option year. And the contract is for $30,000. This will be with American Fireworks Company, who we've used in the last five to 6 years at least. So it's an approval of the contract for the 2025 4th of July annual fireworks display.
So moved.
Support.
Questions? Call the roll, please.
Bulls,
Yes.
Westrick,
Yes.
Gottler,
Yes.
Kufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 10C is approved sign variance for St. Clair High School class of 225 banners.
Yes, once again, the PTO for St. Clair High School is asking for approval to hang banners for class of 2025 graduating seniors on the boardwalk. It will be installed May 16th and stay up through June 7th with your approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Ordered.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Rule
you.
number 11, thank you. Claims and accounts for March 20, 26, and April 3rd. Questions or anything?
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You put a public comment tonight. Keep it to 3 minutes if you would, please.
Bill Clement, 1374 South Riverside. The other day, corner of Palmer and Gulf Street, the crosswalk. You can't walk across that street. It was 6, 8 inches of water in there. When the water recedes, the dirt that's laying in the ramps turn to mud. When are we gonna do something with it? When you can cross the street, the asphalt is 2 inches higher than the curb, so you got 2-inch step you gotta go over. The whole corner is a mess. Harriet and South Riverside the same way, or not South Riverside, excuse me, Gulf Street. Dirt collects in the catch basin, intersection, the ramps flood. When the water dissipates, the dirt turns to mud, and there it lays. And there was question about Palmer and Gulf Street last year. The engineer said that it was gonna fix itself. Well, it hasn't fixed itself. And it is the only crosswalk going to our new park. And if you can't use it, why is it there? My question is, when's it gonna get fixed and fixed right? Both crosswalks, Harriet and Palmer.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right, let's go to number 13, Mayor and Council. Anybody have anything for the good of the cause?
Hearing nothing else, Your Honor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Be safe out there.